Today is a very special occasion. It's the first major event that we wanted to do and start this year with our philanthropic interest. And what I wanted to start with is this statement here, because a lot of what we are doing, there's level of skepticism, and what you're going to see today is how we break through all of that. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that, and I'm sure it'll follow with a lovely presentation from Osman.
There's a story told of an old man walking down the beach early one morning. On this beach, there were thousands of starfish that the tide had washed in, just stranded on the beach. The old man saw a little boy down the beach, picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. He walked over to the little boy. He asked him, "Why are you throwing all these starfish back into the ocean? Don't you see you can't save them all? That you'll never make a difference?" The little boy stopped, knelt down, picked up another starfish, tossed it back in the ocean. And he looked up at that old man and said, "I made a difference for that one." It's easy to listen to the negative voices saying, "No one can make a difference." But the truth is, this generation is already making a difference all around the world. 100% Mad aims to empower you to make a difference. And they're on a mission to raise $1 billion, $1 at a time, for causes around the world. Causes like education, water, and poverty. They guarantee that 100% of the money received by 100% Mad will be deployed into philanthropic projects. I'm talking to you, the generation that sees a problem and wants to fix it. I'm 100% Mad, and I make a difference.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is a film that was done as a competition a couple of months ago, and this particular film was the winner. It was a global competition. And why this is so important to us, this particular thing, is this: basically it sets the tone. It sets the tone of why we are here today, why we are doing what we are doing. And essentially, it challenges us. It challenges us to say, to make a decision. Do we want to make a difference? Or do we decide that we will remain indifferent? In today's timing, not being able to make a difference because of all the digital capabilities and all the opportunities we have in the world, it doesn't really exist. So what 100% Mad as a brand is doing is it identified a problem. And the problem, there are two effective problems. Problem number one is that the people at the top end of the triangle, the top 1 to 5% of the people who are contributing for the bottom 25% people who need this particular support in terms of their philanthropic efforts, there's a lot of donation fatigue at that top level. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that there is not sufficient transparency, and there are too many costs and too many expenses. So if you give $1, if you give $100, 30, 40, and sometimes even more than 50% of that money actually ends up in administration costs and operating expenses and so on. And it doesn't enable you to really fulfill when you actually make a donation. So we identified these two problems and we said, something we need to do about that. And that is what we are here for today. We set up a little social enterprise. We call it 100% Mad, and we'll explain that in a second. 100% Mad represents 100%, is our promise, our brand promise, and Mad, which is make a difference. It is also what we go out there to achieve. We're out there to make a difference. In a very simple way, what this organization is, that on the one hand, we have brands, the youth, we have technology, we have entertainment, all of these people on the one hand, and on the other side, there are projects that we are working on. And one of the things we identified was that there was a disconnect. The people, the organizations who were doing wonderful projects were not able to benefit from the digital technologies that are available. The projects that needed support from the masses was not able to connect with the entertainment world and with celebrities as easily as it should be in the modern world today. So the 100% Mad organization became the aggregator, the connector, the bridge, the basic intelligence piece that connects from one side to the other. And on that basis, we have now started moving forward to do a lot of things. We have basically turned the model upside down. We give away, we actually don't touch the money. A donation is like amana, it's like money held in trust, and it goes straight through. We don't touch it. We have our own methodologies and campaigns that we fulfill our business expenses through that. So basically, we are challenging the status quo. We're saying 100% every time. Whatever money comes through to us, it goes straight through to the projects concerned. We are looking at apps, and this is another diagram there. We're looking at developing this. This is work in progress right now. And this thing is going to be produced over the next few months. This is project number 1. There are 2 projects that we are working on right now. Project number 1, we call it the Butterfly Project. The philosophy of that is that we move from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and we're looking at the education piece as far as developing and the developed world is concerned. We're working with Professor Tony Buzan, who is a champion of literacy. He is the inventor of mind mapping and various other elements. And what he teaches out in the front line to these people is learning how to learn, learning how to think creatively, learning how your memory works, and all of the tools that we need to be able to be extremely productive in our business. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, he's a Peace Prize nominee, and we're working very closely with him, and this is one project. By 2020, the target that we have is we will reach 1 billion people and give them the gift of mental literacy, 1 billion children. And the 5 million number down there is the number of teachers that are going to be trained. We have already started in Pakistan in September. Unfortunately, the Taliban got in the way, and they have not. We were going to do very large events in stadiums and so on, and that is now being shelved. And we are changing that into a teachers training program where thousands of teachers will get trained in this process, and they will reach the children rather than us doing it in the first round. So that's the first thing. The second area is another project we do with Dr. Deepak Chopra. It's a project called Weightless. It's a very simple project. There's a dichotomy in the world where half the world, 1 billion people in the world are obese, and 1 billion people in the world are starving. Both billions are actually struggling, one because they're too heavy, and the other because they are starving. And we are finding various social mechanisms and social methods and using technology and media to address that. What this event is called a MAD network. As part of what we do is we are developing our network through forums, meetings, conversations, volunteer programs, etc., so that we create a movement and we drive this movement forward. So I will play one further video and then we can get Osman on board.
It's a digital era, and we're the online generation, connecting with the whole wide world all the time. We share a selfie of our fresh new look, but let's keep in mind that more than 6.5 million children die each year from preventable diseases. We tell the world about our new car purchase, but let's not forget that approximately 9 million Syrians have fled their homes with nothing. We connect with people to start a new business and make more money, while 1 billion people live on less than $1.25 a day. We go to the best schools and eat the finest food, while almost 20 million children in Pakistan are out of school because they can't afford education. We even take care of our dogs, dress them up, and give them clean food and water. But we forget that over 800 million people live without access to sanitary water. The list goes on. about all the different things we post, like, share, and tweet. But hey, while we're at it, why don't we use technology for a better cause? Be a part of our team by donating only $1, or simply just share our mission with the world, so together we can make it a better place for everyone. I am 100% mad, and I make a difference. Will you?
This was actually produced by one of our colleagues here, Pilanta. She's walking around. That she is, the one in the funny hoodie. And she actually captured the essence of what we were trying to, what we are doing. And today it is about that. And we're very privileged to have Osman Sultan, who's a great thinker. He's a philosopher. He calls himself an architect. But more importantly, I think he's a man with a very big heart and a very big vision. Today he's going to talk to us about digital technology and how we are democratizing philanthropy using all of the benefits of the digital space that we have. So please put your hands together for Osman, please.
Thank you, Tariq, and good evening. It's very nice for me to be here. I feel really privileged. And I want to start with a story to build on what Tariq mentioned, because he mentioned a lot of things about me. He actually gave me more than I deserve. But something I'm very proud of is that I'm among the first people who joined, this idea that Tariq started and launched. And that is the introduction of what I'm going to say, because I have been spending the last years, and some of you know me and have probably seen some of the talks, conferences that I'm giving, saying that the digital space in which we live is going to change fundamentally everything we touch every day in our lives. So that's an idea I'm passionate about. And among the things, when I say it will change the relation of all of us with the world, that is a great illustration of how it can change this. In my opinion, philanthropy will be done completely differently in the coming years. And the major idea that we started is this empowerment that we can have instead of, and we can see this happening, instead of, going around and trying to get 5 million here and 5 million there and 5 million there to make them 100 million. And this is really, and as Tariq said, from these 100 million, at best, you can have 70 million that go for the right cause, the right project that you want. We said, you can even do it better. If you ask the youth, if we ask some of the brands to contribute with their the people who are engaged, to give each $1, 1 dirham, 1 euro, 1 whatever, then you can not only reach 100 million, you can reach 1 billion. And you can then build with as well the idea of sorting out another. So this is for me the main ground on which 100% MAD is built, is really empowering with digital, with technology, a different way of doing philanthropy. And then, of course, what Tariq mentioned is ensuring that if you get 1 billion, if you raise 1 billion, if you ensure a way to channel all the hearts that we see now, youth around us willing to, or having this desire to change certain things, looking around them and not finding how to channel this desire. Once this is done, how we can be efficient in the sense that 100% of the 1 billion, whatever, will go to this project, and we will find ways. This is where we try to be inventive. We will find ways to finance, to fund whatever administrative cost, expenses that needs to happen. So basically, that got me completely excited, and I told him, I'm in immediately. And since that time, we are, working, trying to work on all this. He is we need to give him really credit because he is dedicating a lot. He's driving this from time to time. We just have these discussions and conversation, and actually inviting you to this conversation is something very important because you can contribute with the ideas. You saw the two films that are really very impactful, and this was done not by agencies because this was done by just having a contest, launching on a digital platform, having a contest at global level, explaining the idea, giving a brief, and people going, and they translated this in an extremely beautiful way. So as well as you captured the essence of this. So now let me be back because Tariq asked me talk about this digital thing that you're passionate about. Let me be back to the story that at the beginning made me really feel that digital is going to transform all this because, and I'm sure, and I apologize in advance if it might seem very simple for some of you and if it's just stating the obvious, but I like to tell the story, end to end, because I think when you put all the pieces together, you look at it in a different way. So, we feel every day in conversations we have around lunches, etc., that things are changing. And when you look at change, when change is somehow factored in our DNA. We're born young children, and then we grow, we see things evolving around us. That's part of how we have been educated, we have been prepared. The only thing, and I'm sure you all feel it, is when change is a little bit rapid, when you have to do things differently in your work, you plan certain things, and you have to do things differently than the pace that you are to do it, you feel a little bit tensed, you are edgy because, we feel it as disturbance. Something is disturbing your plan, and we don't like it. Now, when things are happening, imagine that you have to do things you have to disrupt completely the patterns that you are used to. There's a slide that was supposed to say, when change is disturbing, then you feel it as crisis. That's the difference. And if you look at the real crisis that happen in the world, be it financial crisis, be it, tsunamis and earthquakes, be it pandemias that happen, think of it that it is only the pace of certain things that are happening that is disrupted. Financial flows happen at a completely different pace, and that lead to a global crisis like the one we saw. Tectonic plates of Earth move at a different pace, on geological scale, and that are earthquakes and tsunamis. Viruses, always you have a flow of viruses, but when the pace of flow of viruses is changing, these are pandemias, and this is what we see. It's only about the pace of change. Now, to illustrate this, take it on the digital space, and I can give hundreds of numbers, and by the way, all the numbers we can give are going to be obsolete as soon as I print the slide, they are obsolete. People love this. How many emails are exchanged in 1 second? How many things? All this on how many in the world? How many tweets are exchanged? How many? One number though, and forget about it's an order of magnitude that I want you to keep. In 2015, we are in 2015. I started to say this, early last year. If we want to watch all the videos that are crossing internet networks and networks in the world in 1 second, you take 1 second of what happens on the internet, and we want to watch this second, it will take 5 years of our lives. 5 years to watch 1 second. So imagine, in one day, today you are producing more than whatever Hollywood, Bollywood, and the Arab world and everything produced since the beginning of history until now, in terms of video content. Of course, relevance is a different story, etc. Again, don't even keep these numbers. But what I want to show you, what is really relevant and how things are changing, is not qualitative, is not measured in numbers. And I want to show you a video. So if we can turn the lights off, I want to show you a video that is the quantitative change that is happening. Look at the movement of the hand. Happiness. So basically, this person will have a completely different way of doing everything that we do in our. Forget about numbers. Consider that this person, not yet 1 year old or 1 year old little girl, is going to become the mainstream of people working, enjoying, buying, going, in retail, living, doing sport, buying from brands, giving money, having a heart and wanting to give. And they will do things completely differently. So we will talk differently to this generation. Whatever we imagine, I have known a time where there was no internet and no mobiles. Of course, not you ladies, you were too young for that, but we have lived an era, and now we ask ourselves, but how come? How I was doing things, Now we don't even imagine how we were doing things. I'm blessed because I have children from 25 kids from 25 to 10. And I've seen this progression. You can feel it, that they take things for granted completely differently. Having mobile phones is something. Having the internet, if they're not now having an internet or Wi-Fi, life is not anymore bearable. And I'm provocative in my words. So, yes, there are new technologies, but forget about technology. This is not the important thing. These new technologies are driving new behaviors. And new behaviors are driving new business models. And that's the important. Like we are doing things in our companies with a new way, new business models, you will have new business model for doing philanthropy. This is where we are thinking that we have this idea that is now, a lot of people still ask, but what is it really? How is it going to change? Because, I am convinced, this is why we have this passion that this thing is going really to make a difference. New business models, new civilization models. Just to illustrate new business models, all the companies that we hear about that our kids are using or using the service, how old are these companies compared to really brands that have 100 years? Instagram, few years. Twitter, a little bit more. Facebook, 10. This is what we're talking. This is the pace of change that I'm talking about. And with Facebook, with Twitter, with the Instagram, the history of world is changing. If we look at what happened in this part of the world since 2011 until now, and the power of social networking and social media that played in, history was transformed in a pace like never before. That's the strong thing. So are we witnessing new civilization models? That's a big question that I keep asking myself. And then I remind myself that actually it's Same equation, and I want to step back a little bit now. This is what we see. If you think about it, it's exactly the same model, the same equation that existed in the beginning of civilization. It is not a coincidence that cities and civilization existed along communication means that were available for mankind. Why do we speak about the civilization around the Mediterranean Sea? Why do we speak about the civilization along the Nile River or along, roads and valleys between mountains? Because there was a way to communicate, there was a way to transport something from one way to another. This transport infrastructure was always the articulation of civilization models. When the ways of communication became a little bit different, this led to a move of the financial capital of the world from Amsterdam to London. That led to a different map, strategic map of the world. Then after this, with the evolution of some technology, the center of the financial world of the world in the beginning of end of 18th century, beginning of 19th, moved from London to New York. And that led to a completely different strategic map of the world where we are in. The Industrial Revolution era was based around the capability of having these transport communication. I use deliberately the word transport. And around that, you have content, and content has to be channeled to become basically something we use in experiences and lifestyle. And don't think about something as modern. Think about these trees in forest that are cut, and we saw all this in movies or in documentary, transported on rivers, and then becoming into factories and becoming whatever we use in our daily life. So that model in the industry of digital is very simple. The content, here you see, sorry if I don't know if the light, here you have the music industry, the cinema industry, the publication world, etc. They are all here. Channel, you have the telecom, usually you have the broadcasters, you have all the distribution networks, and appliances that existed from the initial fax, telex, computers, photo cameras. It's anything that you use to display or use that. Now, these industries here, 1, 2, and 3, existed completely in the logic of what I call the unshared certainties. I have been since more than 30 years in the telecom industry. But I was a kid, so don't start to, some people is counting 30 years, oh my God. So I was really a kid in this. So, and in telecom for years, we did not need to talk with people for content people. We didn't need, we know what are our industry. We do it. We don't need to talk to anyone else, IT people, etc. We are telecom people, and we were content people, the same. The media people, exactly the same. They don't need to talk to others. The unshared certainties. What happened are 3 major things, the last being the most important in my opinion. First of all, you had the new content aggregation business models. Just to illustrate this, Apple transformed the borders of the music industry that had years, decades, almost 100 years of existence, not through the iPod, the iPhone, or the iPad, through the iTunes business model. A new way of distribution. They completely disrupted the borders of the music industry. The third very important thing is the 3 screens and more. So all these appliances, now with the smartphones, initially we started to do what we do with our computer on the phone. We started like this when we started the emails on the phone. Wow. Of course, this went along the evolution of the technology of mobility. Then we started to have things, what we have on TV happening on our computer. Then what happens on TV happened on our smartphones, then what happens on our camera on the smartphone more and more, then the gaming device on the smartphone, then etc., etc. Tomorrow, the health instruments that we are using for diabetes are on the smartphone, etc., etc., etc. So all the screens and more to come. Why I'm saying more to come? Because I've seen with my own eyes, and we presented this, a guy that was having on the palm of his hand a keyboard, and he was touching his hand and he was dialing. So even the phone went on the cloud. Even the hardware, not only the software, was on the cloud. This is Pranav Mistry from the MIT Media Lab, and this is the ubiquitous reality. This is a reality, and we are seeing this. Of course, when we used to see Tom Cruise in Minority Report doing like this on a screen, this is fiction. This little girl cannot imagine anything else than doing like this and seeing a screen moving. That was a few years ago. That was not, so this was really maybe a decade ago that we saw that. And this is fiction. So this is the important thing. And the most important thing in this equation that happened is that the absent part of this ecosystem, these guys here, you and me, no, probably you, because me, I was already involved. I was as well here and enjoying this. So you were absent. Nobody was asking what you want, what you prefer. Telecom, they didn't care, specifically at the time of monopoly. This is a service. And you know, what's the service? Time and distance. You talk for a longer distance, you pay more. You talk longer, you pay more. Life was easy. What happened is that these guys started to become the main stream of this entire equation. If you talk today, if I ask you, which is the company that has the biggest reservoir of content, everybody will tell me YouTube immediately. What is the amount of content that YouTube produces? Zero. You're doing this content. We are all doing this content. Users are, and that's a great thing. So we are, as an industry now, moving from what I call the unshared certainties to a world of shared uncertainties. Ecosystems, and if some of you are entrepreneurs, if any of you in your businesses, believe me, if you look at it, this is what's going to happen. You will not conduct your business like we are doing philanthropy, or we are really intending to do philanthropy in a different way. You will not conduct your business in the same way. Ecosystems are more complex. Ecosystems have more layers. The good news, you'll have to share. The not so good news, you will have to share uncertainties, and you will have to come. There is less and less recipes well done where we know we've been doing this in the last 20 years. Let's do it. So this is the world where this little girl is going. This is the girl that my young kids are going to face. Not my dear wife. She knows. She has uncertainties, and what she's saying is right. I can show you. So this is the way. This is now. Just imagine. We're talking empowering. This guy. Let's say he is a Maasai warrior or a farmer somewhere in the most remote area in Africa. Give this guy just a simple phone, and this guy will have communication capabilities equal to President Reagan when President Reagan was the President of the United States. That was 25 years ago. That's the empowerment we're talking about. Even stronger. Give this guy a smartphone, the same guy. He is in the most remote area completely alone, and this guy will have access to information identical to what President Clinton, when he was president of the most powerful nation on earth, had. That is the empowerment that we are talking about. So when somebody, Tariq, tells you, no, but you want to get one dirham or $1 from a billion people, that's completely unrealistic. Believe me, my friend, this will happen, because this is the level of empowerment that we're having now. This is why I was a strong believer, and it took me much to say, that's the right idea. That's the way we need to do it. Okay? In this world, there has been a construction of an abundance model. We moved from a scarcity model where we were looking. Today, we are in an abundance model. How this was constructed during the years. Do you remember how the internet started in the mid-90s? We started to go to the internet like we go to a library, right? What we were doing, we were going for searching for an article, looking. This is what you could do on the internet in the mid-90s. So we're going like we go to a library. Early 2000, beginning of the early phase of 2000, we started to go to the internet like we go to a shop. We started, why? This is a place where with a lot of footfall. When you have a place with a lot of footfall, what happens? The merchants become greedy. We can use it. So the merchants came to this marketplace. Initially, at that point, the merchants just put a banner. A lot of people were there. Like, historical marketplace. Nothing changed in civilization. You had a place that was a passage way. So a guy had chicken, came for chicken, exchange a guy that has vegetable. This is how things started. This is how cities sometimes were built. And somebody put a banner saying, you know what, my restaurant is at the end of this road. This is what happened in the internet. People, merchants were putting only a web page. Then they started to put their products. Then they started to sell. The real revolution happened in the mid-2000s when we started going to the internet like we go to a cafe. Today we go on the internet to see who's saying what is this person doing, what is my friend, what did she buy? They went to a restaurant, people are just shooting the thing that they ate, selfies. That we're going to the internet exactly with the same logic that we go to a cafe. And that is the empowerment. Because we moved from breadth, from depth that we had now the breadth that came with this phase of the networking. The internet allowed in the beginning to go deep in a subject. You can have information like you never had. Now you have the breadth as well, powered with all this networking. Now, it doesn't mean that it goes without some problems. Today, our kids are taking their information source probably from what their friends are saying on social network. It's not like our reflex that, I want to see what CNN is saying. I want to see what BBC is saying. I want to see what Al Arabiya is saying. I want to see this or this reputable journal is saying on that or that. Because, no, now they're saying because this is now on social media. So a lot of care, a lot of caution, a lot of learning on that model has to happen. And we're far of having cracked this. And probably this is a constant learning model. Innovation through this will happen by necessity. It always happens by necessity, pressure to change. Exploration, these are the technopods, etc. And very often, innovation happens by serendipity. When you start studying philosophy, they tell you that there is always this balance in the drives of human nature, fear and greed. When you are in a situation where things are threatened, you think that I want to protect myself. I want survival. Human nature. Enterprises, when you are under some threat as a corporation, your contract is here to protect you. But then in your contract, a good lawyer has to protect, but allow you as well to be a predator if you want, give you this capability. Fear and greed. Innovation things happen like this. First innovation happened because I am walking 2 hours to get water. Then I had a brilliant idea. That's under the pressure. If I have put a duct, water will come to me. I just noticed that water is flowing. That's, the fear part. That's the necessity. Then we start doing things and we do things by accident. What do I mean? I can assure you that when Mr. Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, he wanted Mark Zuckerberg didn't have the vision of this is going to be a network where 2 billion people are going, etc. What happened is that people embraced this. People took that. People empowered, because it empowered people as well. The funny thing, I come from, and I said that in panels. In 2001, I sat on a panel in the telecom industry. We were all excited. 2001. Next big thing, mobile payment. Great. 2013, last year or almost last year, we sat on a panel, experts, telco. Next big thing we're talking about, mobile payment. 12 years passed. We're still, during this time, a young guy just came with something that changed completely how people do things. And it didn't come from the telcos. But when you think of it, yeah, this is not in our business. It's about connecting people to each other, right? What do we have to do as telcos in this? I'm ironic, I'm satiric on purpose, because it calls for a lot of humility. Because this was made by engineers. Telcos have been driven by years, because this was about a network only. So this is how the necessity will change this. Now you have conditions, and this is where, first of all, in my opinion, and when I launched this some years back, connectivity as a basic human right. The Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union was there, and even they were not daring this. And I told them, connectivity is becoming, actually I used the word years back, connectivity as a basic human need. And the colleague, I was sharing the Arab working group for the private sector in the Arab world. And I said connectivity as a basic human need. And some colleagues from challenged economically countries said, how can you say that when we still have basic needs like decent healthcare, decent nutrition, that are not in the Arab world? I remember, I don't know which country. How can we, isn't it too bold? After what happened and the recent event, political event, I said, guys, it's not anymore a basic human right, a basic human need. It has to be upgraded. It is becoming a basic human right. And when we consider this young girl that we saw in the video, and when we consider our young kids, believe me, for them, this is granted, this access. The second thing, the uncertainties moving to shared uncertainties. This is the world in which we are. We shouldn't be afraid. Things are going to change at paces that sometimes will disturb us. We need to be ready for this. There are new formats for knowledge, for innovation. And of course, new models. And this is where what Tariq is trying to do enters. Of course, there is new relation with the family, individual with the family, with the group, with the school, with the doctor, with the office, with the shop, with the bank, with the society, government, authority patterns. Just let me give you an example. Our son, one day, he was 7 maybe. He asked me a question, and you don't have the time, the patience. These, what is the longest river, or what is the highest, or is this higher than, all these questions at an age where you want to know, and you don't know. And all of a sudden, he has this illumination. But why I'm asking you? I will just Google it. Once he said that, it's like a discovery. Believe me, the pattern of authority that we built when we are kids, because we go to our parents because they know, then we go to the school teacher, then we go to the professor, then we go to the mentor. This is how pattern of authority historically are built. We created psychologically because these people, they know, and we respect that. That pattern of authority was cracked by Mr. Google, where legitimacy just shifted in a very, very seamless manner. With the nation, we saw that in some of the political things. With the world, philanthropy, global philanthropy, will become something that will be done differently. This is where I said, this is what Tariq is trying to do. This is 100% mad. This is a new way of the relation of the individual with the world. There are conditions precedent though, because we always say, oh, everything is rosy, this beautiful world. No, we need to know how to put cursors between openness and control, between privacy and networking. I want to network more, but issues on privacy. We spend time explaining to our young kid that, you cannot just share everything on WhatsApp groups with people that sometimes you don't know. It's about privacy, it's about security, etc., etc. So there is a cursor to be put. It's a delicate balance, not an obvious one. Between intellectual copyright and spread, I want to spread it as much as possible. What about protecting some copyright, which is as well an ecosystem that exists? And the most important, you need fair and ethical practices. The Industrial Revolution determined the strategic map of the world. This part of the world missed completely the Industrial Revolution. The Arab world, although we are very proud of our participation in scientific and intellectual pursuits in the ancient times, we missed completely the Industrial Revolution. We did not invent, we did not develop any technology. We were buyers, users, heavy users of technology. Now, my hope as a person who has a strong passion of belonging to this part of the world is that with this new way of doing things, with this information revolution, we will catch up. And that will be an engine of positive transformation. But there has to be proper governance rules, fair and ethical practices. To conclude, I like the sentence, I'm quoting the sentence that is from a Yahoo website. At some point, I don't know if this is still on there, I'm quoting them. Here, this is, so for me. They used to say there is a new master of the digital universe, and that's you. And that I will conclude with this, is that at the end, like what Tariq is trying to do, it will be a relation with individuals, with the world. Individuals will make a difference. I don't, as opposed to these big global bodies that, bring nations, and they are suffering today, whether it's all the philanthropy organizations that belong to the United Nations, etc. They have their problems, they depend on nations. Individuals, you are going to make this difference, because you are all, but you don't know it yet, you are all 100% man. And we call it the new universe. This is what we are heading, and this is why I'm very proud to be 100% man. Thank you all.